guys, welcome to The Bite. My name is Jackie. What is your quintessential holiday dish? I need to know. Leave it in the comments down below because I'm about to share with you the quintessential Arab holiday dish. Any holiday, any time of year, you will find this dish on the table. It's like the second centerpiece next to whatever protein you're having. This is hashweh. My family always called it tatbeilet, which is kind of like the same thing. Hashweh is essentially stuffing. We use this to stuff everything from mahshi, which I have a video on, to malfouf, which is stuffed cabbage, to potato. I mean, everything you will find this stuffing. So we don't just stuff with it, we eat it as a rice dish. Every Arab household makes this dish and kind of puts their own twist on it. This is actually how my mother-in-law makes it. She uses not ground beef, which I have today, but she takes a piece of chuck meat and you go to your butcher or at the grocery store, you ask the butcher behind the counter to use a chili blade to cut the beef so that it's kind of like ground beef, but with larger chunks, and I really prefer that. My grocery store just didn't have it this day, but my family at home, my parents, always used a piece of beef and slice it into just like very, very small dices. And that's how I grew up eating it. Traditionally, it's made with lamb. And sometimes my family would make it with lamb, but I prefer the taste of the one with the beef. So I'm gonna be making it this way today. You can make it with whichever one you want. The spices will be the same, everything else will be the same, but it's just the meat of your choice. So let me go over what I have right here. All right, so I have my ground beef. I use the lean ground beef because we are gonna be cooking this with butter. But you can use, again, whatever you like. My mother-in-law likes to use Uncle Ben rice, but you can also use whatever rice you want. I just really like the taste of it with these three. These three are like the staple that make it taste as good as it really does. And of course, you're gonna need water to cook the rice. And I like to season the meat while it's cooking, and then I like to season again the rice before I cover it. So I have, for both plates, I have 7 spice and allspice. 7 spice, depending on the brand, will have essentially the same things, which is allspice, nutmeg, cardamom, cumin, black pepper, warm spices like that. And then for the rice, I like to add a little extra nutmeg. So the rice needs to be well strained and washed. I like to take a sieve like this. This is how I always do my rice. Anytime I have a rice video, you will always see me do this, except for risotto. Won't do that with risotto. So you take your rice, you put it in here, and you let the water run through it. And I like to squeeze it between my hands until the water runs clear. That way I'm getting off any grit, any dirt, any extra unwanted starch, and it leaves you with a fluffier rice. Whenever you make rice like that, you are bound to have a better tasting rice all around. So let's go over to the stove and start making the hashweh. All right, I got a big pot here on medium heat, and I'm going to add my butter right to it. Growing up, I always thought that my tete, my grandma, made the best rice, and my cousins all thought the same thing too. And as I grew up, I realized that the secret was butter. Butter makes everything better. That saying could not be more true. You could make this with olive oil, but it won't be better than with butter. And I'm also making a little bit less than normal because I made this earlier this week because I wanted to test the recipe for you and make sure that it was ready to go and perfect to share. But the recipe that I have on my blog will be for a little bit larger amount. So just keep that in mind, and you can adjust the amounts according to how many people that you have. So I'm going to let this melt. I'm gonna add my meat and then we'll come back. All right, so the butter is melted, and to this, I'm going to add all the meat. And using my wooden spoon, I'm just going to chop it up into as small pieces as I can get. One thing I did forget to mention was you do need salt and pepper for both the rice and the meat, so I'm going to add it here. All right, so my meat is just about fully cooked, and it's a nice little bite-sized pieces, just very, very finely ground, which is what I like. If you use fattier meat, it will render off more fat. You wanna adjust the amount of butter based on the amount of fat that your meat has, because you don't want it to be like greasy tasting, your final product. So at this point, I'm going to add in my rice. And like I said, this has been washed very well. So add this in. And before I add in the spices, I just like to mix the rice with the meat, just really quickly to make sure that it's all evenly coated. So this looks like a lot of meat compared to rice, but the rice will expand. As we know, rice expands when it cooks. So I'm gonna add in the spices right now, along with just a little bit of extra salt. Now I know you saw that big clump of salt come out when I was salting the meat, so I am going to keep that in mind and just lightly salt the rice. That is good. And add a bit of pepper. So when I was mixing the rice, it was clumping together a bit, and that's only because I had rinsed it and it was sitting for about 5 minutes before I actually put it in the pot, so it stuck together, but that's completely normal. So it is ready for me to add water. Now my mother-in-law swears by 1 cup of rice, of this Uncle Ben rice that I have here, which is a parboiled rice, to 1.5 cups of water. So that is what I'm going to do right now. Give it a quick stir, and then I'm gonna let this mixture come to a boil before I cover it and let it simmer. Okay, the rice is boiling. I'm gonna bring it down to low. I'm gonna cover it, and while this cooks, I'm gonna prepare all the toppings, because there are toppings and you need it. It's imperative for this dish. All right, the rice is done. I'm just gonna fluff it up with a fork, and I'm going to set it aside uncovered while I get to work on the toppings. All right, so the rice is done, and now we're going to work on the toppings. So if you've ever been to New York and you've seen the trucks that sell nuts for nuts, that's every Middle Eastern ever. We are all nuts for nuts. We put nuts on top of everything, including rice. So the one of choice is actually pine nuts, which have like this buttery bite to them, and it's just a very traditional one that we use. Even in stuffings, we use it. But as a substitute for this, you can use slivered almonds, and my family does that all the time, but I just happen to have pine nuts on hand. So I'm gonna toast these up. I have a small little pan here, and I'm gonna put it on medium-low heat. You definitely don't want it too high to risk burning the nuts, because then it'll just offset the whole dish, and it'll give it kind of a bitter flavor that you do not want. So I'm going to add to this some samneh, which is the ghee or clarified butter. I have a video on this. And the samneh that my family always uses has such a unique flavor because of a certain spice that we put in the dish. So I'll link the video up here so you can check it out, but it is the secret ingredient to so many dishes, I'm telling you. So now that it's melted, I'm just going to add in all my pine nuts and just give it a quick stir. Especially if you're using a nonstick pan, you don't want to use metal on it, so I'm going to use my wooden spoon and just coat this all with the samneh and let it cook until they are all golden brown. Once they turn golden brown, you need to remove it from the heat immediately. And I think I mentioned this in like my very first video ever when I made fatiyat hummus. When you're doing this, it's really important that you don't let it sit on the pan, because it will continue to cook and the bottom will burn and turn black. And again, that's gonna just ruin the whole dish. So the minute they turn golden brown and the minute you can really start to smell them, toss them one more quick time and then put them into a dish, which I have my dish ready for that right here. All right, so everything is ready. Just seeing this on the counter just makes it feel like it's the holidays. I am ready, and I'm gonna show you how we plate this up. So I like to serve it on a white plate because it's a brown dish. You want something to contrast it, and it's kind of a dish that really stands out. Everybody's gonna get this when it's on the table, I'm telling you. And if you or someone that is coming to your house is vegan or vegetarian, I have friends that have used the veggie crumbles that kind of resemble meat. I've never done it, but they say that it works just as well. So that is an alternative. So I am just going to do my best. Ready, this looks perfect. So I'm going to assemble it by, ooh, this is hot. I am going to place the pine nuts all around the rice, just like this. Now this is what everyone is gonna reach for first. I guarantee it. So just put these all around the rice, and then any remainder can go right on top in the center. And then for just like an additional color, I like to sprinkle the sides with a little bit of fresh parsley. How beautiful does this look? I am ready to eat. So we tend to eat our rice with plain yogurt. You could use Greek yogurt. We don't always do that. We just use the regular, plain, simple yogurt. So I'm going to take a spoonful of this, and if you're like my husband, you're gonna go whoop, whoop, and get all the pine nuts, because that's what he's known to do. But I'm just going to take, well, I'll take a few. You know, gotta have my pine nuts. And then with a little bit of yogurt. And this is kid friendly because let me tell you, my daughter can eat this every day. Mix it up with some yogurt, she is all about it. All right, let's do this. Those pine nuts are still really hot, so don't want to burn myself. Absolutely perfect. One of my favorite things on any table is this right here. And if you've never had it, I guarantee you this is going to be your new go-to rice, seriously. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope to see this on your Thanksgiving table. It is Hashweh, which literally translates to stuffing, so I thought what better time to do it than Thanksgiving time. So I hope to see it on your tables, and when you recreate any of my recipes, don't forget to tag me on Instagram at _thebite, and subscribe to the channel so you're notified, and click the bell so you're notified of when I post new videos. I have so much good stuff coming up for you the rest of this month, so stay tuned. I'm gonna finish all of these pine nuts on the dish, and I will see you next time.